Well, what the heck's going on with Cowboys rookie Savone Ravel? That's why you listen to Love of the Stars. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Brian Broaddus. And we appreciate everybody who tunes in, takes the time to listen to us here on Love of the Star. We love you. And we're going to do a special mailbag episode for you. So we put this out on the Twitters. Myself, Brian, we've retweeted this thing, and we're going to go through and answer a lot of your Cowboy questions. But the first thing pressing here, Brian Broaddus, we had Albert Breer with a little nugget on the Monday morning quarterback, and he talked about maybe a little setback for Cowboys rookie Savone Ravel, who they took in the third round. Brandon Laurie, who does an excellent job going and finding videos and content and repurposing that out there, works with Blogging the Boys, has a podcast of his own, does excellent work. So this morning, I know you've been out there. You've been circling around. What are the reports on Savone Ravel? Should Cowboy fans be worried, or can we go ahead and pause the concern?
Yeah, I have the absolute utmost respect for Albert Breer, as a lot of the national media does. Albert and I go way, way back to when I was working as a scout for various teams, whether it's Green Bay, Jacksonville, Philly, all the places that I've been. And but he mentioned something about a setback. And I thought, man, this is really interesting. Let's see if this is actually true. And I actually sent a screenshot to somebody I know in the organization. And I said, hey, is there any legs to this? And this guy told me it's absolutely not true at all. As a matter of fact, he goes, I know for a fact that Ravel has worked this week, is going to run again tomorrow and work. So yeah, it's not true. And so Albert probably talked. Albert's got a lot of sources. I'm not trying to say that he doesn't. But in this particular one, I went to somebody I know that would absolutely be able to hammer this thing. And his response was, no, Ravel has been on schedule. He's doing all the work. Matter of fact, they really do love the fact that he has worked as hard as he can. He's really embraced, since he's been here, the time, and they're now in the season where it's really the off season I say off season, but that period between the mini camps, OTAs, and the training camp where players tend to go and do things that they want to do before the season starts. But Ravel is there working at Star right now as we speak. And so again, not trying to cause any problems with Albert Breer, but my guy said that's absolutely not true, what he's done. It's not true at all, that he's now in that mode right now where that he is working and there's been no setbacks.
That's awesome. And I know your source is definitely one that would know. I was asking as well, and it was like, well, a lot of people aren't here right now. So that's why you have Brian Broaddus, who is the most plugged in here, that's able to go and get this stuff from the people that know this. Also, the way Albert kind of put that out there, it might have been kind of an old story that he kind of just recirculated out there. But yeah, Albert's awesome. We've had the opportunity to talk with him at the Super Bowl, but that's just good news for Cowboy fans. You're unsure what's going to happen at corner with the health of Diggs, when he's going to be available. Are we going to be able to see Ravel at training camp at all?
Well, yeah, let me kind of circle back with you. Even you mentioned Diggs as well. I think Ravel is on a good path right now in talking to people. I think he's on a good trajectory. I think they have an idea about him and where they're going to be. I did ask about Diggs. Diggs is out. I know people are seeing videos of him out playing basketball and all that stuff. And guy, if he's playing basketball, he should be ready and all that.
Mm-hmm.
People within the organization, I was saying, well, listen, there's all this talk and video and stuff about Diggs. I had two different people in the organization tell me we're not going to know how ready Diggs is going to be until the middle of August. That's how they're. I know he's talking about opening day and all, and good for him. I mean, if that's what he believes and all that, but there's people in the organization that are like, we've got to see him. We've got to work with him. We've got to figure these things out. But there's I sense a little bit of frustration there that, and good for Diggs if he's wanting to go work with his own people and all that. But it also puts other people kind of in the dark about what's going on with him. And so I said, do you have a timeline on Diggs? Won't know till the middle of August. So that's something that right there should be a concern. Better feeling about where Ravel is than they do where Diggs is.
Yeah, and we got to chat with Nick Harris, and Nick was also like probably Pup would be his best guess that Diggs the season on, and I think that's probably realistic. And if it ends up not being the case, then heck yeah, that's awesome. That Diggs will come back sooner rather than later. But I do think maybe cautious optimism, if you're a Cowboy fan, would be the best way to put it, because obviously some type of, hey, Diggs trusts the people that he's working with, and he does not have a great relationship for one reason or another with the Cowboys staff. And once they get together in Oxnard, we'll get more information on that. I also found it interesting, Brian, just sticking with secondary. And I don't know if you got to see this at the second minicamp practice you went to, but Calvin Watkins, when he jumped on with us last week on 105.3 The Fan on the G-Bag Nation, he noted maybe a little Kalen Carson playing in the slot. And I know the Cowboys are kind of trying to figure out what are they going to do at nickel corner, land in a contract year. He's like, I'd rather just play on the outside. And maybe he does, but in nickel packages, he's probably the player that's best suited to move inside. Kalen Carson, who you and I both liked a lot, like the player we saw last year with the Cowboys was not the same player we saw on tape coming out of college.
Right. Absolutely right. And I think that, and that's disappointing because out of Wake Forest, he showed so much promise. And I felt like that he was going to be a guy that, from what we were able to watch him at Wake Forest, that he was going to come in and compete with, maybe that he could be a guy that could compete with Jordan Lewis initially for the slot spot. And Jordan Lewis just basically said, nah, Jordan Lewis was one of the best defensive backs you had last year when you dove into things. I mean, he was the one guy when things were going bad, he was still playing at a high level. When things were good, he was still playing at a high level. He had a marvelous season for the Dallas Cowboys. Where things kind of fell apart with Carson was in training camp. He got sick, he got injured, things were not. I mean, he just missed a lot of time, and then they threw him out there, and it was not productive. His confidence got shot. There have been times where we've seen him, like I remember I think it was the Raiders game, might have been the Rams game. It was one of the preseason games where they threw the ball at him early, had a miss, and then the next times they were throwing the ball at him, it was tackle. Yeah. I think it was the Raiders game, but he's one of those guys that was quick to forget, like, okay, something bad happened to me. Here I go. I'm going to go do something else. I mean, I'm going to go, make plays and stuff. So, but the practice that I got to watch last Wednesday, the actual practice, Keemon Hall was the guy that was playing the nickel with the ones. Now, we'll see how this I think in OTAs and mini camps, they were throwing bodies at that thing just to see how the matchups would play. When you look at Elam, Bland, okay, who we're going to throw in the nickel here and see how that rotation looks. So I think this is one of those things when we get out to Oxnard that we're going to have it's going to be a constant every day of trying to figure out who is going to be that nickel player. Hopefully it's with Ravel being a guy that could get back on the field. Hopefully he starts very positively, and then they're able to allow Bland to potentially go do what he needs to do.
Hey, come on, Hall, North Texas, Mean Green. Let's go, baby.
How about that?
Yeah, representing. He looked all right last year in the preseason, so maybe he's a guy that can develop into something there. And just going back to Diggs, man, I know a lot of people are looking for information when you listen to Love of the Star. Trayvon Diggs is one of these guys that needs to get out of his own damn way, in my opinion. I don't know if the want to and the desire's necessarily been there after he got that big contract. I think Diggs needs to it's on him a little bit here as well. So I'm hoping for the best. The mentals there. Maybe Brian Schottenheimer, Eberflus. He was just on a stream with a popular streamer named Neon and was just talking about, oh man, the coaching staff is tough. I love all the young guys that we've got going here. But sometimes I don't know if the priorities are really right where they need to be with Trayvon Diggs. And I've said it before. If he did not get hurt, I question whether or not he'd even be on the roster right now. I think the Cowboys would have tried to move on and trade him. But I'm hoping for a great season from Trayvon Diggs, and we'll see moving forward. Let's get in to your mailbag question, shall we? You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. So we put this out on the Twitters. You can follow at Brian Broaddus, at Zach Wolchuk. And, the feedback, and you guys have done an excellent job telling us, hey, what you like, what you don't like. And the feedback is we like the mailbag questions, and we want to get more of that. So you guys came out with a ton of awesome questions for us. We're going to go through some of these. We'll see how long it ends up taking us. Maybe it'll even be 2 segments here, Brian Broaddus. But the Dean Julia mailbag, we will open it up with our buddy. Let's actually start with Brandon Lordy. And I like this question. Which assistant coach is most important to the Cowboys' success this season? Is it Connor Riley? Is it Junior Adams, the wide receivers coach, Connor Riley with the O-line, or David Overstreet?
And that's secondary, right?
Yes.
Overstreet. Whew, that's a really, really good question from Brandon Lurie. I think, to me, I want to say I have not as many questions about the offensive line. I have not as many questions about the wide receiver, because I think at 1 and 2 they're going to be fine, and now it's about figuring out 3 and 4. I think that you could put even what we've seen from Turpin. You might be a guy that's battling for the 3rd spot as well. Ferguson, we'll see how that goes with the tight ends. Maybe that's going to be fine. I think in the secondary, how they navigate, if the Cowboys get into a mode where offensively they're not very good, that's going to put a lot of pressure on this defense. It's going to put a lot of pressure on this defense. Where I think Overstreet, where he's going to have to help out is maybe this group is not going to be whole to start the season. And so I think Riley will be whole. I think Adams will be whole. I think Overstreet will not be whole. And I say whole with how he's going to work. So he is going to have to get some guys ready to play right off the jump. Dallas needs to have a good offensive attack. When they're able to create pressure on opposing defenses, it's because they score. Dak Prescott's ability to score and put points up now makes these opponents a one-dimensional team. So now it doesn't turn into running the ball. It turns into throwing the ball. Dallas equipped to rush the passer. Can Dallas be equipped to handle coverage on the back end so pass rush gets home? Pressure's on Overstreet, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that answer. And just to be different, I'll go with Coach Riley. Sure. And I think you're 100% right in terms of, he's probably, I'd say, the most suited, maybe out of all those guys, to have success right away, because I like what they've done with the offensive line. But the Guyton and Steele stuff, right? Like, we're talking a lot on, okay, Terrence Steele is the one that's going to benefit from an offensive line change. And I do believe that. But I also think, hey, let's see it. Like, we still need to see that. Tyler Guyton going into year 2. And we've talked about this on our show. Like, we're not needing Tyler Guyton to go be an all-pro. Tyler Guyton, just be good. Just be steady. Just don't be getting false starts. Don't be lining up off sides. Don't be, getting beat off the snap. And now Dak, before he can blink, he's got pressure coming right at him off the backside. Just be able to hold your own. If we're not talking about Tyler
Hold the
Guyton,
fort. Just hold the fort, guy.
It's a great thing, right? And then you've always told me the most important coach on the staff outside of the head coach is the offensive line coach.
It is.
And so that would also lean me to go with Coach Riley. And
that's a great answer. Yeah.
I think that this team, it's just going back the Cowboys' history of success. How good is the offense? And that's going to dictate how good the football team is. And I think it all starts with that front on the offensive line. So a great question there from Randon. Yeah. Here's our buddy across the pond, John Nelson.
John Nelson.
If you could choose one ex-player, Brian Broaddus, at their prime from any era, any team, to join the Cowboys, who would you want and why?
Tell you what, man, Randy White as a 3 technique in this defensive scheme could be devastating. You could probably talk about it safety play. My favorite player of all time, Darren Woodson, his ability to play down, play back, and cover, give you leadership back there. How about Deion Sanders paired opposite of Bland? Would that be a consideration that we would think about? That ability to cover and play that way. Hell, damn, your guy, Emmitt Smith, handing him the ball down after down after down after down. I'm sure there's some people out there would say, give me Roger Staubach, give me Troy Aikman. Hell, give me Tony Romo. There might be some people that think that over Dak Prescott right now. But I would love to see like Randy White as a 3 technique playing and just being as disruptive as all get out with this defense, because I know how important that is to now. I guess Larry Allen. Could you see Larry Allen playing? I mean, Larry Allen playing one of these positions. I mean, at the left tackle spot. How about a Rayfield Wright? How about there's Hall of Fame players that you would Michael Irvin at wide receiver. I mean, you've already got kind of the wide receivers, but can you imagine with Michael Irvin with CeeDee Lamb and also with George Pickens, that kind of thing?
How about a guy that
it's what makes it a great question.
I love it. Yeah. What about Eric Williams and the stories that you've told about seeing Randy White after they've won a big playoff game? He's just like, oh my God, I've got to go play Eric Williams.
I've never seen a player affect Reggie White more. And he respected Eric Williams. He knew it was a tough matchup. But we're in San Francisco at the divisional game at Derek Candlestick, and I go, Rev, you look down, and he goes, it's that Eric Williams. He knew it when he was taking off his tape. He knew what kind of a battle that he was going to be in that next week. And that's the type of player that Eric Williams was. And unfortunately, his accident cut his career short. Listening and talking to people who had been around Eric Williams now, like a changed man, a lot of things that he's done, and just kind of this humble going guy that, hey, I was a good football player back in the day, but those were days gone by and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's a great question, but I think I would go with Randy White playing that disruptive 3 technique would be really, really cool for me.
I love that answer. Bob Lilly maybe could be a guy that we could drop in as well.
Yeah.
Talking defense tackle. But Darren Woodson, your guy, Woody could cover the slot for you as well. So not only is that an upgrade.
Yeah, he could play line. I mean, there's a lot
he can do.
Things. Yeah, I mean, and you look at all the great linebackers the Cowboys have had too throughout history. You go back to the Leroy Jordans, you go back to Chuck Howley, you go back to, in the modern times, Dat Wynn. How about a healthy Sean Lee? How about a healthy, Leighton Vander Esch? Ken
Norton Jr.
Ken Norton Jr. Yeah, there's a lot of players to choose from there. It's a great question.
It is. I love that. Shout out to John Nelson for asking us that this year. Okay, Tom Milbrand. Sign one, tag one, let one walk.
Okay. Oh, I love these questions. Tag one.
Deron
Sign
Bland.
one. Sign one.
And then let one bye-bye.
Let one go. Okay, go.
We've got Deron
Bland.
Pickens.
Okay.
And Parsons.
You want to take a stab at that one real quick?
Yeah, I think sign one. The Cowboys are signing Micah, right?
Okay.
And honestly, if this were me, I'd probably do the same thing. As frustrated as I have been at times with Micah, he still is a talent that is just so rare to find, and what he can do for your defense, they're signing him. I'm tagging Bland, and I'm letting Pickens walk.
Pickens is going to have probably
he's going to have a great year.
He's going to have a great year for you.
Yeah. He is, but I think the price for him.
That is a really, really good question. Matter of fact,
it's great.
That one's going to go on Krusty's Corner today.
I like it.
On 105.3 The Fan at 3:40 today, because that is a really, really good question.
Okay, agree or disagree? I think this past year might have been the one draft where I'd have said, you actually probably would be easier to find a corner than a receiver. But typically, I think with just how rich the receivers have been in the draft, I just feel better about finding a guy at wide receiver that I think could play immediately than I do about corner. And I think Bland, I love the toughness Bland plays with. He's a guy that'll gamble, and yes, he will give up some plays. But the turnover factor, his ability to play inside and outside, hell, I don't really get him complaining about playing inside versus outside. I think you could argue, if I was his agent, that's the tougher position, playing slot corner in the NFL. that's maybe the hardest position in the secondary.
He's looking at Diggs' contract right now and saying, why do you want to do this to me?
And look, hey, JC Horn, right? He just got paid a ton of money, and that's an outside guy. But the versatility he's able to bring to the table, I think I would just tag Bland, and I'd let Pickens walk. And it'd be tough because I'm with you. I think Pickens is going to have a big year, but I think that guy could get like $30 million a year in free agency.
Pickens?
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, how do I tag Parsons and then navigate the rest?
Ooh, that is a different way to look at this.
Yeah.
Because you can. You can tag Micah twice.
Tag Micah and then, figure it out, kind of figure out what you want to do. Because he's the one that's going to cost me $40 million, right?
Yeah.
If I tag him, it's probably going to be, I'm going to have a $10 million savings there, maybe, in like a edge, like a 30-something million player.
I think so. I'll double check that, but I think you're right. I think you would actually probably save some money there.
I think actually it's less than that. I think it's 24, 26, something like that. But look that up for me real quick. How about tag Parsons?
Okay.
I keep saying this. I think Pickens is going to be really good. But if I tag Parsons, then that means I'll have $10 million to kind of play with there. I don't know. Maybe I could get Pickens under 30.
Yeah, honestly, man, tagging Micah, you're looking at it's around just over $22 million for a franchise tag. That's probably going to go up next year.
Sure.
Because you just had the new deal for Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
But either way, that's going to come in a way under what you're going to be paying him if you sign him to an extension.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to tag Parsons. And now I got to figure out who is the cheaper between Bland and Pickens.
I think it's going to end up being Bland.
Yeah. Yeah.
If Pickens has the kind of year we think he will, the word out of Pittsburgh was he told them he wants north of $25 million a year. So he's going to get 25 to 30 million. And then, hey, if Terry McLaurin ends up getting a new deal here before, the price is going to go up. I mean, the injury stuff for Bland, I think, might bring the cost down for him a little bit, but they're going to be close. I think you might be looking at around 20 for Bland. I think high, you could be looking around 30 for Pickens.
I'm going to really piss off Micah Parsons. I know that, but maybe I piss him off to the point where, maybe you can work out a deal. Maybe it's like, or maybe he's so mad that I've tagged him that I have to move on from him, that maybe the season's not going along well. And then I trade him, that kind of thing,
Yeah. Yeah, if he wants to get disgruntled, I mean,
trade deadline guy.
Us are the draft nerds that we are. Give me those picks. Give us those picks. Let's rebuild this thing.
It's an idiot thing to say. I personally, this is just Micah Parsons, and I think personally, I would sign Pickens and let Bland walk. That's just how I would operate, because I think that CD and Pickens are going to make Dak Prescott worth it. I just do. So with that being said, I'm probably going to try and replace Bland at corner, which he was a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can get that navigated.
Hey, either way, nice comp pick coming back in return there.
Sure. But I would tag Parsons just because it keeps me from having to pay $40 million right now. And I can
it's a rabbit hole that honestly, Brian, I didn't even ever consider. Like I thought maybe, hey, you could end up going down that road if we continue to have this, we're playing chicken with each other between David Mulligetta and Jerry Jones, and Jerry refuses to pick up the phone, and David says, well, I'm not picking up the phone until you call, which seems like kind of where we're at right now, the old stalemate. But financially speaking and team building speaking, and this is where the front office representative and you really shines, that is a genius way to get around maybe not having to be on the hook for $40 million a year for a player and still have him on your roster. Because what else could you do with an extra $10 to $15 million, right? That you're saving.
That extra $10 to $15 million might get me Bland and Pickens.
It's genius. Maybe.
But all right, for the spirit, tag, sign, let walk. It's tag Parsons for me, sign Pickens, even though I'm doing it on a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
I know what Bland is, and I let Bland walk because I going to find another corner.
You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's keep rolling with the Dean Julia mailbag. Here's some great questions. Appreciate everybody who interacts with us here on the Love of the Star. We love you, and we thank you for making us a part of your day. Zach Wolchuk and the Super Bowl winning scout, Brian Broaddus. Okay, Big Introverted asked us, which room has the biggest question marks right now for the Cowboys?
Corners.
Running back, corner, or D tackle. So you're going corner?
I think it's the corners. I mean, D tackle is what it is. I mean, you do need JT or Mozzie or somebody to step up. And it's a really good question. But to me, the cornerbacks, okay, we just went through the whole thing with Bland and what's going to happen with Diggs. Is Elam good enough? Is he just a Band-Aid? Is he a hold the fort guy? Who's going to play the slot? You know, there's a lot of questions about. I think there's more questions about the corners than there are about the defensive tackles. I kind of have a feeling I know what Mozzie is. I'm hoping he's just good. Don't need him to be great, just be good, you know. And JT, I kind of like where I saw him. You know, we'll see how that all plays out. You know, I mean, Justin Rogers, see how that kind of plays out. But I kind of know what those guys are. I'm interested to see about these corners, though, and if it's how they put this group together. So I think that's the one with the most questions.
Yeah, there's a ton of questions there with corner. I'd put D tackle third among that because I think you're right. I think we just kind of know, hey, if you end up hitting on Jay Toia, you know, the UCLA kid, Aking Basote from Maryland, like do one of these guys step up for you? Hell yeah. But I'll go running back just because I don't know who the hell is going to start out of these guys, man.
That's fair.
Like, is it Javonte? Is it Miles Sanders? Which one of these dudes ends up? And Sanders supposedly has the juice. I just kind of assumed it would be Javonte Williams. Maybe I'm wrong on this. Phil Maffa, he's coming off of a shoulder injury. How's he end up looking? Jaden Blue.
Good point.
I mean, can he end up figuring out the fumbles?
Yeah, is Jane Blue picking up the offense too as a rookie?
Absolutely.
Guy? Him and Maffa, are they picking up the offense? And are we not hearing a lot about that because maybe there are some struggles right now doing that?
Right. And then pass protection, that's another big thing. Like Williams is good at that. Blue, I don't know. I mean, thinking about when I was watching him at Texas, like I can't remember how much he was asked to really do in pass protection there. Yeah. So, I mean, they've got a lot of options, but who really emerges as the guy there in that backfield? All right, let's go to, and we'll stay with running back here because this is from MC. Injuries are going to happen. Let's say a running back goes down for an extended period of time. Do you think the Cowboys would look to trade for one or go bargain bin hunting and try and bring somebody off the street?
Depends on who it is, right? Who did you lose? Did you lose a backup or did you lose, say your primary back is Blue? Just say. Do you feel like, okay, how's the number 2 played? How is Williams played? How is Sanders played? Is there a way that I could use is Maffa an inactive guy every week, or is he on the practice squad? You know, I personally think that they will use what they have in-house. And then if they have to, I also think this, I think before we get to that game in Philadelphia in week 1, I think that if they look at these running backs as not being good enough, that they just kind of go through them and go through them and go through them. It's like, I could see very much like they did with the edges last year.
Yeah.
Keep bring a guy until you kind of get a combination that you might like. But if they suffer an injury, say that Blue's the starter and they suffer an injury, a lot depends on what do we think about the second guy. It was when he was getting reps, was he able to show like the offense does not stop with him in the game? If that's the case, they play in-house. If it's like, but I think this could be something that we see kind of during the training camp, that maybe it's let's look at this guy. Let's look at this guy. Let's look at this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cause the names, like I wonder what happens with Dameon Pierce in Houston. Yeah. That's a name we've talked about several times. And now they just added Nick Chubb. Does he end up being a guy that just, hey, we don't have a spot
surplus for surplus if you got
it?
You know, I mean, we saw it last year with with last year with the cornerback situation.
Sure.
You know, when you looked at the situation, and and Andrew Booth, I mean, Dallas immediately sent one away, and here comes Andrew Booth back.
Right.
You know, it might be you might be trading player for player right there, just because of the the nature of the position.
Out of the backs, is Blue the one that they can't afford to lose?
Right now, it's not appearing that way. You know, we have to see when we get into padded practice and how the offense looks. It's kind of like the guy that I've been throwing dirt on is Miles Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Sanders might step up and be that guy. You know, I was talking with Sean Payton about Williams. He was very positive. He's like, Brian, this guy's 2 years removed. Let's see what he looks like. That might be something that works out for you over there. So right now, I love Blue because I know what I think he could do. I don't really have a great thought about Williams or Sanders or even Maffa for that. You know, we had this big discussion. We've had this big discussion about Deuce Vaughn. You know, I kind of think I know what Deuce Vaughn is. There's a lot of people out there saying, no, Brian, you're wrong about Deuce Vaughn. I'm like, okay, we're good. You know, we're good here. So if that's how you feel and he makes it good, I'd be happy. But I think the initial question was, how do you feel about what position group? Maybe you're absolutely right about the running backs. Maybe you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. I just like looking at the skill set. Blue is the one that's got the most home run hitting ability, the speed. And there's so much, like, he's got to prove he can play in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. But I wonder, like, do they have the ability to make up for a loss of one of the other guys based on the play style of the other running backs they have? Is Blue the one that's kind of the outlier of the talent that he brings in the room that is not replaceable?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. Yeah.
I mean, I wonder. I can't wait till we get the pads on to see like who emerges out of that group. That's going to be a fun position battle. Okay, what else do we have here in the Dean Julia mailbag as we wrap up this edition of Love of the Star? All right, from Aaron Lale. Do you think that if George Pickens can improve his routes, he's got the ability to be the best wide receiver in the league?
I have a hard time going over my LSU guys.
Yeah.
I have a hard time.
I mean, heck, could he be the best receiver on the Cowboys? I mean, is he going to be ever better than CD?
This is where Voch Lombardi and I had this conversation last night on the Doing All Right. And we had this conversation because he played audio of Dak, then asking about the question came about the offense and what's he excited about with the offense.
Okay.
And you could tell that he was very excited about the addition of Pickens. But the Dak, the politician, and I mean that in respect, I don't mean that as a slam. Dak is very good at saying a lot of things without saying really what, he says what needs to be said and then he moves on. But you could tell his excitement with Pickens' addition. Okay. You could tell that. But he had to be careful because if he talks Pickens up this way, well, what's CD thinking?
Yeah.
What's Tolbert thinking? What's Mingo thinking? So you see Dak is very excited, and then it turns into, but hey, Tolbert, Mingo, those, he'd be very, very careful, but you could tell he wanted to just continually talk about the addition of what Pickens means. Pickens very well could be, when all's said and done, best receiver on this team. Possibility. CeeDee Lamb will have something to say about that. But I think that to me right now, Pickens has got to show that he has the same reliability as what CeeDee Lamb has. But Dak was you could tell when he was asked the question, he was very excited. And then he realized, oh, wait a minute, I can't get out of character here. I've got to talk about, well, yeah, but Tolbert and me, and it's going to make everybody better. And, you're like, you gave it away. You're really, really happy. And you said it, personnel. What's going to make this offense but personnel? And I think that George Pickens, you can include, and then you can also throw in Tyler Booker at right guard.
Yeah, I think the answer for me would be no. I don't think George Pickens is ever going to be the best wide receiver in the league. But, 50-50, he's got certain traits that are better than CD. You talked about
better.
just jump ball. That I'm taking George Pickens every day of the week. Route running, I would go slightly CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Both I think are pretty damn good after the catch. A guy that can move around.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm saying. The whole thing with Pickens is run after catch, and you say that very well. Run after catch. He's finally got a quarterback that can hit him on the run to play run after catch football.
100%. Okay, last question here. Let's shut this one down. Let me try and find one that we haven't really. We had a lot of like, is it our year? What color's the Kool-Aid this year? I get it. I get the apprehension, Cowboy fans. I understand.
I'm always a big fan of the purple Kool-Aid.
The purple one?
Purple Kool-Aid's good.
Purple's the way to go. We did get a question about the Ravel setback. We hit that in the opening segment. Okay, we'll close it down with this one. This is going to be juicy. Ryan Trammell. If the Cowboys were in the playoffs or Super Bowl, which quarterback would you choose to play? Dak, healthy and in his prime, or Tony Romo, healthy and in his prime? And be ready to be clipped for this, Brian.
Both healthy, both in their prime. Man, I remember Dak going toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers. And I'm thinking, man, this young guy has got a great future doing this. Yeah. But he's had some setbacks, and there's been, and we've talked about this in some post-game shows. There's a couple times that the defense played well enough to get it done. And man, I think playoff Tony Romo could probably. I think Tony Romo, man, because damn, I'm still marveling that throw he made to Dez Bryant. It wasn't they didn't call a catch. It's one of the ballsiest throws I've ever seen a guy make in a game, in a game of that magnitude. And I think Dak would probably make that throw too, or try to make that throw. Give me Romo. Give me Romo. I know it's not.
It's tough.
Tony's had his share of days where it wasn't
that interception against I mean those 3 straight years. Now one of them he got hurt. And so it was Matt Castle against Philly. But 3 straight years, the last game of the season to win the division. Now, one interception will always stick with me. And I can't remember the linebacker for Washington. But it was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, he did have some of those moments. It's similar to Dak, late in the game. For Dak, it's kind of just been like the inability to go on the drive. For Tony, it would be a turnover. You're like, why the hell? That was the Favre comp. It's the gunslinger in him. He can't help himself. But I think the Houdini element of Tony Romo, and now, like with TikTok and everything, you relive some of those moments. Holy hell, there were times where it's like, how did Tony get out of that one? And Dak's had some, don't get me wrong. I mean, the play against Detroit, I think.
Oh, he had a throw.
I thought he was going to get sacked, and he comes out and ends up hitting CD or whoever the heck it was.
CD down the field,
Holy crap, that was incredible, right? So both of them definitely have their cases. But I think I'm with you. I think I'd go with Tony. He had the big comeback against Detroit. I know Lion fans will complain. Well, Anthony Hitchens, there was pass interference, and the Cowboys got off the hook. But I think I'd still end up with Romo. I think the arm talent, his ability to fit the ball into tight wind, the back shoulder fade was a throw that him
maybe
and Dez,
manipulate the defense a little bit.
Just a little bit. But I mean, gosh, them on their best days, man, that can be a coin flip because both of them have had tremendous moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Dak against Tampa, I thought was the best I've ever seen him throw the ball. And people say, well, that's an 8-9 Tampa team, Tom Brady on the decline, that kind of thing. But man, Dak was good that night. He was really good. Yep.
And that second half, you're absolutely right, in 2016. And that's what annoys me when people are like, oh, well, Dak and Dez could never work together. Go watch that second half. Tell me Dak and Dez couldn't work together when he had 2 touchdowns and like $150 receiving. They were pretty damn good. Pretty damn good together that day, almost coming back and winning.
As we pick Romo.
Yeah, but give me Tony Romo. We'll go full Pat McAfee on that. This has been an awesome edition, man. Love of the Star. We appreciate
Great questions, man. Great questions.
Absolutely. We'll try and do the mailbag more often. Maybe do a mailbag episode per week as Eric and I rotate in with you, and we'll get closer and closer to training camp, man. It's going to be here before we know it. So thank you so much to Brian, of course, Peyton, all the questions that we got sent in. We love you so much. You've been listening to Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Zach Wolchuk. Hugs and hand pounds, everybody.